Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Tiff from Journal with Tiff, and today I'm going to be going over my pens that I have inked for the month of November that I want to focus on. This month I have, just like I did last month, 7 pens. Last month I kind of tried to have like a fall vibe, thoroughly enjoyed it, and this month I do feel like there's a theme. May not be fall inspired, but I kind of feel like I inadvertently kind of yielded to the same kind of color pattern. So let's go ahead and check that out. The first pen is my Scribo Spiaccia-Rosa. This has an extra fine 18 karat gold nib. One of my Grail pens, and I have it inked with Birmingham Pen Co. Petrified Wood. This is such an interesting color. So I got it just when I first heard about Birmingham Pen Co. And it was, yes, it was my first ink from them. And as you can see, it looks like a pink, a light pink ink. That's a lot to say. With, it looks like, it doesn't even look like sheen. It just looks like green ink sitting on top. It's very, very interesting. Also a very saturated ink. So let's see, how did I do this last time? Pen and then ink. We're going to turn this just a little bit. All right, this is, I don't want to mess that up. As you can see in the writing sample, it looks not quite as pink. In the swatch, it's very light with just a little bit. Here, let me get a little bit closer so you can see this before it dries. That's just like pink with what looks like green ink sitting on top. It doesn't even look like a sheen. So this is quite an interesting ink. Spiaccia-Rosa. I have this in an 18 karat extra fine nib. And it's inked with very wet, but not too wet. Birmingham Pen Co. Petrified Wood. Now, where that name came from, I would love. I wrote name. Wow. Petrified Wood. I was saying what I was thinking, that I would love to know where the name for this ink came from. And we'll definitely take a closer look at this once it dries. But so far, it's, I like to try to match my inks with my pens for the most part, and with the pinky brown undertones of this pen that's supposed to kind of be representative of sand. I think so far it really looks like a good match. So hoping that this is going to really work this month. Next, I have my Scribo Piuma. This is in the Altrove colorway. This has an 18 karat fine nib. This has been ground to a fine, excuse me, cursive italic. And I'm not sure if you can really see the colorway. It looks pretty dark to me, but this is just a deep, deep purple background. If I can get closer, with a lot, are we gonna focus? There we go. With a lot of like light purple, lavender, pinky, blue, a little bit of blue right there, chips in it. I just feel like this is such, the colorway is just rich. I love it. And I chose Diamine Tyrian Purple to go with this. There's so many shades of purple in this particular pen that it was not hard to choose a color. And I really like this one. This is a purple that leans a little bit magenta. It is a standard ink, so there's no shimmer. There's not a lot of shading, but it is gorgeous. I don't do a lot of pink, as you can see. my pinks in the writing sample. I'm not sure about the swatches, but for the writing samples, when I'm writing, I don't like to see a lot of light pinks. But the pinks that lean more purple or magenta or dusty brown definitely can totally do those. So let's hold that down here. Another Scribo. Scribo Piuma. And this is an 18 karat. Did I get a grind on this one? I did. This one, I think I just said that. It's a fine cursive italic nib. And I have this inked with. And as you can see, I'm kind of having to write very lightly because this puts out a lot of ink. A lot of ink. Tyrian purple. Do you see kind of like the wetter spots, like right here? I bought this pen secondhand, and I was told it was not a flex nib because the Piuma you can get a flex nib. I was told this is not, but it definitely writes like a super soft fine is how it writes. But so far, I'm really excited to see how this is going to fare because I do have to write with a lighter hand. So we're going to see how this goes for the month. Next, I have my Leonardo Furore. This is in deep purple. I have a fine steel nib, and this is in the pink gold. You can get this particular pen with the silver, gold, or pink gold trim, and love it. I did figure out how to line it up so that the iridescence, the chatoyance, kind of lines up. See, it's all here, then it's dark, then it's light again. Oh God, I love that. But anyway, I digress. I decided to ink this with Sailor Shikiori. This is Kamashika. This is a new ink to me, and whoo, look at that. Look at it. Wow. This is definitely a pinky. It's like a dusty brown with, a dusty pink. Oh, gosh, I can't get it out. A dusty pinky brown. Gosh, thank you guys. With a purple undertone. So let's see. Leonardo Furore. And this is in the deep purple. And this has a fine nib inked with Sailor Shikiori. Kamashika. Such a gorgeous, gorgeous, let's cap this before I make a mess. But even like I feel like the color of the ink really does match the sticker well because it's a dusty pinky brown with a purple undertone. As you can see there, it's just, it's a vibe. That, as you can see, my little color palette is kind of trending a particular way. So far, no issues with this one so far, but we're going to see how it goes for the month. Next is my Pelikan M800 in the Renaissance Brown. This was ground, this is an 18 karat nib, and it was ground to a fine cursive italic. I will admit it's a little bit more crisp than I like, but I have this inked with Sailor. This is a Yurameku ink, and this is a Mamayoi. And one of those inks that can definitely be surprising if you're, let's clean this off one more time. I didn't say what I was using. This is my Kakimori dip nib, and it's the steel nib. It just works better for me than the brass nib. I don't know why. I have no idea, but it absolutely worked better for me. There we go. So I still have my brass nib. I just don't use it very often. I love this ink for the simple reason, that it is a Urameku ink and how it's not flat. The color will change. It is basically a sage green ink that once it starts to dry, it yields a pinky undertone. So this is my Pelikan M800 in the Renaissance Brown. And this has the fine cursive italic nib inked with Sailor. Urameku So yeah, I thought that color, as you can see, this is not even quite dry yet, but do you see the pink and the green coming through? But in the writing, you do see it a little bit more in the swatch, but it's just pulling out the neutrality in the pen. So I thought that would be a really good combination. Next is my Pilot Custom 823. This is in the amber colorway. I have it in a fine nib, a great workhorse pen, and I love the Pilot pens, any of them that have the number 15 nib. Any other size nib I kind of start having issues with. And I have decided to ink this with an ink that was, I did an ink swap with a pen friend, Carmen Connects. You can check her out on Instagram. And this is Ferris Wheel Press Beaver Dam Brown. This is, let's see here. It's almost like, I don't want to spill this. Come on. I sucked up a lot of it. I'm trying to get it into the pen. And I'm gonna wipe off the edges of this so that I don't just have ink all over my hands. So that's what will happen. So this is a deep, rich brown. Gosh, I love that, with a purple undertone. I'm so glad to get a sample of this particular ink, because I can tell you now that I'm probably gonna end up getting a bottle of this. I love it. I don't even know if they still make it, to be honest with you. I hope they do. I haven't even checked to see if this is something that they keep in stock. All right, let's make sure we're open. This is the Pilot Custom 823 in the amber with a fine nib, inked with Ferris Wheel Press Beaver Dam Brown. I hope I said that right earlier. Sometime my words kind of get a little jumbled. And this is another Ferris Wheel Press ink that I do like, because like I've said many, many times before, they can tend to be very drying. But so far, this has just been great so far. I have written with a little bit already. Not a whole lot. I try not to write with my pens too much before I do a video, because I don't want to give too much away at the beginning of the month, and give a really concise review of the pen ink combination towards the end of the month. But so far, it seems to be coming out of the nib great. It doesn't appear to be dry, and the color of this ink is just phenomenal. Next, I have the Leonardo Momento Zero. This is in the Viola, and I have this in an extra fine. And it is, maybe I'm going through a purple phase, but I love the chatoyance in this pen, and I love the deep purple colorway. And I have decided to ink this with Tatcha Ume Murasaki. This is another beautiful, as you can see, it starts off with as a very light pink, and it kind of darkens really well. But if you can see in the cap how it has like the greenish tones in it as well. But when you write, it's more like a dusty pink. So the writing sample is definitely different from the swatch. All right, Leonardo, little abbreviation here, Momento Zero. Fioritura Viola. And this is in a fine nib. And this is a steel nib as well. All right. I've been wanting this ink for quite a while. And I was at a nearby pen store and saw that they had it and just definitely had to scoop it up. So this is, look at the shading in this already. Beautiful shading. And now that it's drying, like I see a little bit of the sheen in the swatch, but I don't see any of the green sheen in the swatch, but I don't see any of it in the writing sample, but I do see some great shading so far. So I'm really excited about this particular combination. And my final pen is my Santini Italia. This is the Libra model in the Capri colorway. This has an 18 karat gold extra fine nib with an ebonite feed. Oh, this is one of these pens that like might be passed down in the family because I will never get rid of that. And I have it inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. Initially, I had a bunch of smaller, like the 15 ml bottles, and I went on Goulet Pens and just purchased empty bottles and just pretty much put them all in here. But I do still have another one, so I do have the box. And I guess I say that just because I feel like I need to make sure that I show that it is the real ink. Don't know why I feel that way. Inaho is one of my most beloved colors. Love it. Ink colors, that is. I'm just sick to death that it was discontinued. Maybe one day, prayers that they'll bring it back, maybe. I don't know. I do not understand why they got rid of this ink. It is such a beloved ink amongst so many people. But anyway, again, I digress. This particular ink, for anyone that's not familiar with it, is a greenish brown, depending on the paper, depending on your light, the type of nib it's coming out of, how much ink you're putting down. It can have a greenish hue or brownish hue and does have goldish undertones. And because it's an Iroshizuku ink, it is just such a great writer. Now, my Santini, this particular nib, they're made in-house, which we just don't see a lot of anymore. But it is soft. It's quite bouncy. And this is a substantial pen, but it's not too big. It is so comfortable for me to hold. This is in the Capri color, and this is an extra fine. This particular combination, I'm just going to be honest, this is not a new combination. This is the only ink that's ever been in this pen because there's really going to be not much of a review on this one. I've always had this ink in this pen, and I just can't get away from it. I can't. Inaho. Yeah. This particular combination, like I said, I've never been able to get away from. So I don't anticipate it's going to be any different today, this month. So, but still, we'll still check it out at the end of the month. And now that everything's dry, let's take one more look at the pen ink combination once they're dry. All right, the Birmingham Penco Petrified Wood. As you can see, it has dried. The sample is like super light. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of the swatch. A large swatch of this ink when it dries is just a little bit too light for me. But in writing, as you can see, it's a great match for the pen, and it's more like a dusty pink with just a little bit of a pinky brown tone. So that is in the Scribo Spiaggia Rosa. The Scribo Puma with the Diamond Tyrian purple, definitely a magenta leaning purple. The Leonardo Fiore in deep purple with the Sailor Shikiori Kamoshika. Definitely a lighter pink undertone with a dusty pinky brown overlay. You can see it much better in the writing sample. The Pelikan M800 in Renaissance Brown, and this has the Sailor Urameku Amamayoi. I hope I said that right. You can see the pink and green blend where it blends as it dries, and the swatch much more neutral in the writing sample. The Pilot Custom 823 in Amber, and this has Ferris Wheel Press Beaver Dam Brown. It is definitely a purple brown leaning mixture. It's almost, depending on which way I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is brown with a purple undertone, or no, this is purple with a brown undertone. Either way, it is gorgeous. Next is the Leonardo Momento Zero and the Viola with Tacha Ume Murasaki. A beautiful dusty pink, very deep, with just a little bit of green sheen, not necessarily noticeable in the writing sample. And finally, the Santini Italia Libra in the Capri color with Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. And that, my friends, is it for the month. Thank you so much for watching. If you've stayed throughout the video, if you've hung in there with me and watched the whole thing, I hope you can appreciate the color choices that I've selected. If you have any comments or questions, just leave them down below. Let me know if you've tried any of these colors, specifically the Petrified Wood. I was really interested in that one, and it's such an interesting ink. I just don't hear many people talking about it. So if you've tried it, let me know what you think. And thank you again so much for watching. Don't forget to like. Please consider subscribing, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.